Performance Max campaigns have been a revolutionary tool for e-commerce marketers looking to drive serious growth across their store. Google's provided a solution that not only partially automates what used to be an incredibly manual process when it came to managing ad campaigns, but it also routinely provides excellent results when it comes to driving sales volume and ROAS. However, it's also sometimes seen as a product with a high barrier to entry where you need time, technical knowledge, and a healthy budget to work with. Now, some of this is true, but one common misconception I've seen the longer I've worked with clients on these campaigns is that managing the images and videos required for PMax campaigns is a real uphill battle. I'll be honest, it's taken some time to crack the code as to what images work the best in PMax campaigns. But having spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on these over the last couple of years, I've got a list of best practices that not only mean you can have your best possible assets from the get-go, but also start making these as efficiently and inexpensively as possible. Stick with me because that's exactly what we'll be going through in today's video. The first thing that's important to wrap your head around when you're starting to make assets for your Google ad campaign is the fact that when a potential customer sees your ads, it's going to look very different to how it looks to you as you're uploading it. When we are putting an image together, it's often blown up to full screen where we can see every granular detail. But that's the only time anyone's ever going to be able to focus that much on your ad. When Google takes what you've uploaded and starts showing it across its inventory, it's showing your ad on search, display, Gmail, and a load of other places. Now, those are already areas where a user has a lot else that's grabbing their attention, but now consider that your ads could quite often be showing up on someone's phone, where you're given even less real estate on screen. When we start to really think about the implications of this, there are two main takeaways. Firstly, images need to be as attention-grabbing and scroll-stopping as possible. There are a bunch of ways to do this that I'll touch on, but stealing a user's attention is our #1 priority. Secondly, we need to keep in mind that any small details that you might have been taking time to perfect at the design stage are likely going to go totally under the radar when your ad gets served. Adding small lines of text or minor visual cues likely isn't going to be very effective. Plus, remember that there's copy that you've written in the form of headlines and descriptions that's likely to be showing up at the same time. So instead, focus on what the one takeaway of your ad should be, and focus on that, driving as much attention towards it as possible. This leads me nicely onto my next point. Make your product and brand the star of the show. As founders or marketers who often spend a huge amount of time around the products we're selling, it's easy to get caught up into thinking a user would know exactly what they're looking at when they see one of your ads. The matter of the fact is, though, that anytime one of our ads gets served, we could very well be making our first introduction to a potential new customer. That's why it's important to make both your brand and product as obvious as possible. An image that gets across not only the name of your brand, but also makes it clear exactly what you're trying to sell ticks all the boxes, in my opinion. The text can do the rest. Here's one example that I think does the job perfectly. It's an ad for an online tea store, but without screaming the words tea in your face, the image alone not only makes it pretty clear what's being advertised, but it also gets across the brand name, T2, without artificially overlaying it over the image, which could be distracting. Below the image, the copy does a little extra work to provide some context, not only offering a clear call to action without forcing it into the image, but also building a sense of excitement as it teases us with unexpected new flavors. This is something that couldn't really be conveyed with an image alone, so both the asset and copy are doing their own jobs here. So what are the main takeaways from this? I'd say that every time you upload an image, it should get across your flagship product or whatever product you're trying to move, and your brand in less than 1 second. If needed, overlaying the name of your brand in the image, large enough so it's legible, is worth doing, but try and think of other creative ways to include it as well. Now, this point is one of those things that can make getting started with PMax feel a little scarier than it is. Google lets us add a maximum of 20 images for each aspect ratio, with those being 1.91 to 1 for landscape, 1 to 1 for square, 4 to 5 for portrait. That means in total, Google's asking us for 60 individual images in your campaign for it to be firing as well as it can. Now, of course, that sounds pretty daunting, but it's worth bearing in mind that we really only need 20 individual ideas and can simply resize these to fill up our campaign. Beyond that, think about just how much adding these images speeds up learnings for both Google and ourselves. We're giving the platform a lot more to work with as it's in the learning phase and working out the right asset to show to the right user. Beyond that, after the campaign's been live for a few weeks, we can jump in and start looking at our top performers and start making a lot more assets like those ones. This helps us prepare for when these ads start getting stale and creative fatigue sets in. We already know exactly what to replace those images with when they get tired and begin underperforming. Of course, 20 images is a tricky place to start with in some situations, and you may not even have 20 products that you're trying to sell. In that case, I'd really urge you to try and get at least 10 images live to start with, and then you can start to gradually increase this as both your campaigns and your store grows. While Performance Max is a highly automated product, that doesn't mean we can completely take our foot off the gas when it comes to keeping up momentum, particularly when it comes to creative. As I mentioned, creative fatigue sets in quickly here. That's when users get so used to seeing your ads that they stop having any real impact. At the same time, continually topping up your creative when fatigue is holding your growth back is time-consuming at best and expensive at worst, particularly if you're working with a designer or agency. In order to both speed this up and make the process a little cheaper, I'd spend some time thinking about your ideal workflow. One thing that works especially well for us is starting off with templates. Standard formats that align with both your brand's tone of voice and brand colors, but are put together in such a way depending on if you need to promote a new product, sale, or whatever else you're prioritizing. The platform we use for this is Canva. Not only is it great for quickly putting together assets that look truly first class, but when we see an asset is really taking off, we can quickly go back into Canva, find the template, and make around 5 more variations that riff off the ads that started driving the best performance. What's especially great about Canva is that you can resize assets with one click, which is great for making sure you're hitting all 3 aspect ratios in essentially a third of the time. Of course, there are other tools out there that can do this that you might be more familiar with. The key is to make sure you have a workflow that allows you to be as responsive as possible when you inevitably have to start chopping and changing creative. I hope this has given you some tools to either start working on or improve the ads you're using for your PMax campaign. Creative is the most important part of so many campaign types these days, so it's really worth getting familiar with these and, of course, putting time aside to keep testing what works for your brand. Images are just one of the ingredients that make a great PMax ad, and this year I'll be focusing on making more videos where I reveal the secrets behind some of the best images and videos that have seen truly groundbreaking performance for my clients. If this is something you'd be interested in, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to stay one step ahead of both Google and the competition.